Oh, rickety, right? Let's get down and do what it do. It's that time, ladies and gentlemen. I hope y'all are excited, man. I know I am. Totally didn't get a chance to do this yesterday. Holy smokes, that's not where I wanted to go. Totally didn't get a chance to do this thing yesterday. We didn't get a chance as far as with the holiday and stuff. I had little man at home. Also, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, man. I might have to start kind of changing my schedule just a little bit. Whether that's figuring out maybe recording the first part of the podcast maybe Sunday night or something. Honestly, with work kind of picking up, I feel like I kind of want to give myself at least one full off day. So I think we're going to start doing that with maybe Monday. So kind of keep an eye on the Discord. Keep an eye on the podcast. I'll also update you guys over here, YouTube, all that stuff, of course, as well. We'll probably change up the schedule just a little bit. Not sure what it's going to look like just quite yet, but hopefully everyone had themselves a good weekend, man. Another busy weekend, man. Filled with a bunch of good esports, bunch of good stuff going on. I mean, this weekend was crazy, man. We had Carmine Corp failing to make Swiss stage and Carmine Corp falling before Swiss stage. They still made Swiss stage. Carmine Corp though, falling early. We had Moist though failing to make it in EU to the Swiss stages. In NA, it just seems to be like a race for fourth right now for the final spot as far as for LAN. I mean, it's G2 and then everybody else, but Gen G seems to have pretty well solidified themselves in that second place spot. In as far as points, even you'd say is LG in third. So we'll kind of see. I mean, we only have one more event left, man. So we only have so much time until we're going to figure out kind of what those four spots look like in NA, right? Also, the VCT kickoff started this past weekend. I got to say, the VCT kickoff event has been amazing. We'll get to it a little bit later, man. But honestly, Group B in the Americas, like instant classics in all of the games so far. They've been pretty dope. So, what's crazy though to think about in VCT, we're going to touch on it a little bit more, but crazy to think that we just started our kickoff event this weekend, and we already have VCT teams that are on break until like April. There's got to be something that can be done as far as changing what that schedule looks like, kind of what the process for VCT pros looks like, but we'll get to that here in a little bit. But also at the end, we'll talk just a little bit. And I don't want to talk about too much now. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more in episode 7. But I want to talk a little bit about my early thoughts on the whole Hex Scump suing of Activision Blizzard and all that, right? I've gotten to look into it a little bit. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I don't want to make an overall huge thing, like a big portion. I don't want to talk about it too much until I've gotten to educate myself a little bit more. Especially because there are some things in it that we'll want to touch on later, chat. That for me personally, kind of gets me emotional in the sense of some of the things that are involved. If y'all follow me on Twitter, y'all probably already know what I'm talking about. So we'll be getting to that here in just a little bit, man. So let's go ahead and get down into it. Let's get down and do what it do, man. OnCue Esports, episode number 6. And if it's first time through, especially if y'all are watching over here on the YouTube, man, and y'all are an esports fanboy like your boy, we cover a wide range of esports over here on the channel. So if you enjoy the vibes throughout the course of the podcast or any of our videos over here, man, do me a favor. We're chasing down that first 500 subscribers. We're closing on it pretty quick. Feel free to tap that subscribe button, turn those notifications on. And if you're tuned in via one of the podcast platforms, make sure you're following the podcast. Make sure that you leave a review for your boy if you can as well. That just kind of lets them know that they should be putting the podcast in front of more people. But let's kind of get started off with things. We're going to get started off in the world of Rocket League. As I said earlier, we're 2/3 of the way through the first split in every region but EU. EU has their second qualifier Swiss stage as well as their single elimination bracket here this coming weekend. The new format, though, giving us all sorts of crazy results, man. We saw in qualifier number 1, we saw that Shopify Rebellion finished top 4 in qualifier number 1. Just for qualifier number 2, they didn't even make Swiss stage. I think a team that a lot of people were looking at having a high potential, and because of the fact that they failed to make Swiss, I don't even know if they're in contention for the 4th spot right now. I'm pretty sure by the math they're not. Unless like a whole bunch of stuff happens. unfortunately, my boys from Deleted XD didn't get into top 8 like I was hoping. Man, I'll tell you what, I was heartbroken when we saw the TSM Pirates on a Boat as like the round 5 matchup. Like for your boy, like those are, or not that matchup. Where was it? The round 4 matchup, Deleted XD versus TSM. It was a elimination round. Probably the 2 teams that I'm cheering for the most in NA right now. Like for me personally, although I'm always obviously cheering for like really good games and whatnot, right? But for me personally, I think my 2 favorite teams right now, Deleted XD and TSM. It was really unfortunate to see them in a elimination series in round 4. It really didn't go the way of Deleted XD. TSM looked decent, but then they ended up falling in 3 straight to Pirates on a Boat. So TSM out 9th with a 7-9 record. TSM's looking better, man. They keep looking better. Maybe they get that first top 8 before we head into the second split. Are we just calling it split 1 and split 2, by the way, chat? Let me know down the comments, man. Last year, we had the fall split, the winter split, the spring split, even though like the winter split was going on during spring, but at least we knew what they were called, right? Or what are we doing? Does anybody know? I don't know. Let me know. But yeah, I do think also we saw from some other teams incorrect. I feel like they're knocking on the doorstep of seeing them getting top 8. And Akron, even though they only won 2 series, they went they only won 2 games. They went 2-9 in their 3 series. I feel like they played pretty decent. A couple of close, unfortunate losses. But when we got to the actual bracket for top 8, first off, I gotta say, I liked the fact that we could see G2 and Gen G playing against one another before the grand finals. Allows us to get a fresh duo into the grand finals. Also makes things really interesting going into this third and final regional qualifier. Again, I don't know what we're calling these things, chat. But before we go into qualifier number 3, it makes things like really interesting for those last couple of spots as far as for LAN. But G2 still dominating everybody. M80 still seems to be, Swiss merchants. But I was actually watching Gibbs and Wavepunk's top 10 stream earlier today. And Punk made a good point. Wavepunk said that for M80, if you're only a Swiss team merchant, you're still pretty well in contention for a LAN spot, because then all you need to do is win one more series once or twice, right? Which he has a point with the way that the new series is, right? Or with the new format, right? With the fact that playoffs are now the best of 1. So you're already top 8, right? But Luminosity was the team who ended up making the run the bottom half of the bracket with G2 coming out of the top. Luminosity looked fantastic against NRG. Also looked really, really good against OG as well. Their one game that they lost to OG was in overtime. That was almost a sweep. And I would even say that LG, for the most part, looked really solid against G2. Up until the last game on DFH Stadium where it went 6-2. I mean, every other game was a goal difference, right? Well, other than the one that, it was a goal or 2. I mean, it was a lot closer than I think people were expecting. I think LG is really kind of shown to be one of the front runners in NA. Obviously, G2 is very much that team that is ahead above the rest. Like G2 is NA right now. But I would venture to say, with Luminosity also having 2 wins over Gen G in split or in Swiss brackets, that, or they just have the 1. I think they just had the 1 last time, right? Yeah, just the 1 last time. I might even make the argument that LG is the second best team in the region. Obviously, we still needed another qualifier for that, and even still, I think even after that, a little bit more time to tell. But I really liked how LG looked this weekend. I think they really started piecing things together. But again, unfortunately, G2 still just as dominant. What's interesting, though, like I said, with Shopify going out where they did. Now things get really interesting heading into the final event because G2's already qualified, and it feels like realistically we can expect this top 3 to be going to LAN, right? But then it is super close for that 4th and final spot. I mean, Dignitas, M80, OG, Pirates on a Boat, Space Station Gaming, NRG, Shopify Rebellion. You could even say if TSM were to qualify for single elim next week, or not next week. Yeah, not this coming weekend, but the following weekend. If they can qualify for top 8 and then get top 4, and then the other top 4 are Luminosity, Gen G, and G2, would that be enough? Or they still need to get up into the semis? What's the point difference, y'all? Anybody know? Between, here, we can look at it here. Oh, that's the major. Stand by. For the qualifiers, the point difference between 3rd and 4th and 4th and 8th is 3 points. So if we go back to what we were looking at, a 3-point difference. So that means if TSM were to want to qualify in the 4th spot, which is still possible, they would just need to make it to the grand final, which I don't know if that's possible. They'd probably have to have a good bracket and still pretty well play their best Rocket League we've ever seen them play. But it is possible. I do think, though, again, looking back at it, again, it's not kind of same thing for Shopify, but for NRG through Dignitas, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 teams going to be competing for one spot in this final qualifier. And you know what? I know that we can have the conversations about the instability at the top, which I think we can all agree. And I think that there are things that we can do to help improve that. But can you ask for much more in NA? Now, we'll have to see what EU looks like, right, once their second qualifier is done. But I would venture to say it's going to look pretty similar. And we'll go over these other regions, man. Like, other than MENA, other than MENA, there's at least a spot up for grabs completely in the air going into the third and final region, again, I keep calling it regional, man. The third and final qualifier for this upcoming season. So, from a competitor and org owner's spot, unfortunate. From a spectator's perspective, though, I absolutely love it. Definitely would be interested to know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. I know that we're usually creatures of habit, right? And we are normally abrasive to change, but I feel like we're getting a really good product this year across the board, right? Again, even in NA, like, yeah, we know that G2 is number 1, but who do you consider number 2? Is it Luminosity? I don't think most people see them as number 2. I think most people are still seeing Gen G as number 2. I would even say that some people are still probably seeing teams like Space Station Gaming and N80 as better than Luminosity Gaming, even though Luminosity Gaming is technically up there. I feel like if I had to make like a Power 5 right now, and maybe we'll do a Power Rankings later, but like I feel like for a Power 5, like right off the rip, probably top to bottom, G2 and 1. I probably got to go Luminosity with them having the head-to-head over Gen G. Then Gen G in third. Then I guess the question is, where do you put Space Station and M80, right? I'd probably go M80 then Space Station. Or we go Space Station then. Either way, that's our 5. Like right there. You know what I mean? So, I still think, though, when we look at the level of play in NA compared to the level of play in EU. There is still something that needs to be done to close the gap. And I don't want to sound like I continue, to beat the nail over the head, beat a dead horse or whatever, right? But there's got to be something that's done. I still think that it really just comes down to when you look at the changing of the guard this past season, all of the OGs still played with OGs. So I'm wondering, when we take a look at the rankings, right? If we get to the end and teams realize that they really are just competing for one, maybe two spots in North America, because I am more particularly talking in North America. Because look at this, your 11th, 12th, and 13th place, or your 11th, 12th, and 13th ranked teams are like all CRL or younger players, right? Aren't both of the former Northwood kids still there at Northwood? Right? Hockey's there. Is Cream still there? Is Cream's not there? Did I just make that up? I could have swore Creams was also a CRL player. But I may have just completely made that up. But regardless, there's still a lot of CRL and like young talent that's sitting on the bubble. When do we see OG, 3 players? And I don't know who you would get the boot out of these 3. Right? But do 2 of them decide to, pick up one of the players, like the fresh talent? It would feel weird to do any sort of movement changes in SSG, but what if they decide to move off Hoxer? Right? I don't know, man. NRG even, right? Like they picked up Frosty. But like, why don't they pick up one of these kids that they like know are solid? I don't know. I feel like that's the move. And I will continue saying it until I'm blue in the face. The question is, when do we start to see it? I don't know, man. Also, I'm not going to lie. I don't know about you guys. And maybe this is like maybe strictly a me thing. But I know for me, watching Swiss and seeing some of the inconsistencies and then seeing people just chilling at home versus where you turn into an EU stream and you know that they're boot camping and you know that there's that gap between NA and EU, right? And again, I don't want to feel like we're beating the same points over the head, but when do we start boot camping? Like, when do we put our best foot forward? Like, you are a professional. And I would even venture to guess that for some of our younger players, that the parents are rather encouraging of them chasing the dream of being, an esport athlete, an esport competitor, whatever term you want to put on it. Don't get caught up on the word athlete. Please don't come after me in the comments. I ain't making that argument. All right. But, I actually had a conversation with it just recently with one of the high school like state leagues on Twitter this weekend. Like, I feel like we've reached this point where we're, the generation that grew up like literally gaming, that saw the expansion from the Nintendo to the 64 to online gaming, now being parents and understanding that there can be an avenue for growth there and like competition there, and it not just being, oh, well, I don't want my kid playing games. Like, they got to go outside, you know what I mean? Like, instead of it being like that, like we're seeing people being more accepting of it and encouraging of it. As somebody who went to the one of the state tournaments here in Pennsylvania back in the winter, I can tell you I got to see a bunch of parents who seem a lot more accepting of it than parents were 5, 10, 15 years ago, right? And again, I don't think we are that far away from seeing it even still improving from that point. So we're seeing that pipeline being built. So I feel like NA's got to use it, man, if we're being real. Instead of just relying on kind of the old guard. I do want to talk a little bit about EU as well. Before we get there, though, let's wrap around some of the other regions here that have already finished their second qualifier. Okay, Oceania. Why do I always stumble with that? Oceania, OCE. Power won their second straight. Let's scroll to the bottom here and see it. Power won their second. Is this qualifier? Not qualifier 2. They won their second straight. Screw it. There we go. They beat Chiefs Esports in a sweep. Power is still just looking like the best team right now in OCE, if we're being honest. Like, and it's not necessarily close. Because of the fact that OCE, the Quick Trip Pioneers, went out early, as well as Kaka's Minions, both of them falling to Chiefs Esports. And Chiefs Esports taking down Gremlins. Right now, the rankings in OCE look absolutely crazy. Take a look at this. So we know that Power has already locked in their spot for Copenhagen, but we've got Chiefs Esports Club, Gremlins, and Quick Trip Pioneers all sitting at 18 points. So second spot is completely up for grab. Kaka's Minions and Ground Zero Gaming both sitting 3 points behind them. The only tough part with that is it does mean that more than likely one of these three teams is still going to finish top 4. They'll tie with Ground Zero and Kaka's Minions based off of that, right? And I'm not sure what the tiebreaker looks like as far as for RLCS. But it's going to make it to where qualifier number 3 in Oceania means everything for Chiefs Esports Club, Gremlins, and Quick Trip Pioneers in particular. But you can also throw in Ground Zero Gaming and Kaka's Minions. So 5 teams in OCE competing for one spot. And because of the way this thing kicks off, there's no time for them to take a break. They all start off this coming weekend. And then the following weekend is when they got Swiss as well as single elimination. South America, things also got interesting because in South America, last event we saw that Complexity was pretty well able to run through the competition. Complexity ends up falling in the semifinals to Furia, which is the team that they played against in the grand finals last event, right? So kind of similar to how G2 and Gen G and NA, they ended up playing in the grand finals before. They ended up meeting the same semifinals this time around. Same deal, but this time around, the team that lost last time advanced to the grand finals and ended up winning. Ninjas in Pajamas, another team that's we've seen, within the region for quite some time, also doing well and able to get to the grand finals themselves. So South America, when you look at the rankings as far as for them, still feels like it's pretty well Furia and Complexity Gaming, right? And am I tripping? Did they not play against each other in the finals, in the grand finals in Open Qualifier 1? No, that is right. Okay. Is that right? That's got to be right, right? Yeah, that's right. But yeah, it feels like it's probably them two, unless one of them falls like top 8, I think, before top 8. It's going to be those two. But even still, Ninjas in Pajamas, again, they would need a couple of spots between them and Complexity Gaming in order to take their spot. So Complexity, as long as they get, I think, 5th through 8th, which I think is fair to expect them to do. Complexity still ends up walking. Well, if they're 5th through 8th, then Ninjas in Pajamas get 2nd. than that have Ninjas in Pajamas just sneaking past. So, I mean, I guess you could say technically Complexity Gaming and Ninjas in Pajamas are still fighting for that second spot. It feels like Furia is pretty well in unless they fumble the bag. So in South America, you got a spot up for grab. I'm not even going to really talk about it too much here. Let me move my camera for y'all, for those of you guys who are watching, though. You'll see that in MENA, there are two teams that are pretty well ahead of the rest. That's Team Falcons and Rule 1. We got a similar result as we did last time. Team Falcons taking the grand finals, beating Rule 1. So Rule 1 has a pretty good gap between them and everybody else. So it looks like it's probably going to be the two of them going from MENA. Out in APAC, in Asia Pacific, this whole event's going to mean everything between Elevate and Gaiman Gladiators. We saw that Elevate was able to win last time around. This is event number 1 that I'm showing on the screen for you, for my YouTube video viewers. My fault, chat. Let's go to qualifier number 2, though. So that showed you that Elevate won qualifier number 1 just for them to go on. And what the big thing here was Elevate went out in the semifinal. So not only did they not win, but they didn't get second either, giving room for the Gaiman Gladiators, who finished in a similar spot last go round as well. So they both are sitting at 25 points. So Gaiman Gladiators and Elevate, whoever goes deeper into qualifier number 3, that is going to be your representative for that region come land time. Which just leaves us with SSA. Your boy was so happy to be back on the desk over in SSA, man. Really good show, really good games all the way around. Even some of the sweeps that were in the top half of the bracket, like the games, were still pretty close as well. Still ended up coming down to Young Money Clam and Limitless. Limitless still able to hold it down. Limitless has dropped a couple of games now, though, in both Swiss and the playoff brackets. Haven't dropped any series, though. It still feels like Limitless very much in control in SSA. I believe as long as they get to top 8, they qualify for LAN. I do gotta say, though, and I think I'm going to bring on Graybeard to talk about this. Maybe not this weekend, but maybe next weekend for Friday Night Lights. Or maybe we'll wait until heading into Split 2. We are going to bring on Graybeard here soon on the podcast, because we've talked in the past on past episodes over here for OnCue Esports about the import issue going on in SSA, right? And while it is very unfortunate to see, because I think this event 5 of the top 8 were import squads, I think SSA teams are going to have to start taking it just a little bit more serious. Like, it feels like teams kind of got used to being able to put in a decent amount of work, maybe not, grind, but put in some work and still get in decent results. Complacency is probably the best word to use, right? We're seeing teams, we're seeing individual players who have usually done quite well after a bad performance or two talk about contemplating retirement, which, let's be honest, nobody in SSA retires. But I think that just kind of goes to show where the region is right now as far as mentally. One qualifier away. I think as long as Limitless does well and they see that it's possible to protect the region, I think that'll help. But I do think we're going to see quite a bit of roster shakeups in SSA. I mean, shoot, we're probably going to see quite a bit of roster shakeups across the board. I think SSA in particular, we're going to be seeing quite a bit. I mean, this team's really trying. I would be surprised to see even like cross-regional sort of stuff. You know what I mean? But I know we're getting closing in on 30 minutes here, chat. So let's go over EU real quick. I don't want to do too much predictions. If y'all want to see as far as how my pick'ems go, I will be dropping that video probably tomorrow, probably on Wednesday. It may drop Thursday. It will definitely be coming out this week, though. We mentioned it earlier. No Moist. Carmine Corp dropped a series, which is definitely kind of wild to think that in double elimination they had to go through the lower bracket. They did it on the second day, or on the last day of double elimination as well. Do I'm sure we have first round matchups. We don't. Why don't I have qualifier matchups? Surely I have to have qualifier matchups. If we had, because I saw the pick'ems page got posted, right? Hold on, chat. Let me double check one thing real fast. All right. I'm not going to do pick'ems. I just kind of want to see how things start. Gentlemates and Carmine Corp in the first round. Dog. Well, whoever loses that at least gets the benefit of going down the lower bracket and should have a couple dubs. It's wild. So we're going to be seeing a rematch of, that's qualifier 1 grands, right? For North America? Not North America. I'm an idiot. For EU? Yeah, man. So the grand final from qualifier number 1 turns into the first round of Swiss. That is wild, dog. Oh, man. The new system at work, chat. That just doesn't seem right, right? Let me know, man. Let me know down in those comments for sure. Regardless, I think both those teams are going to be fine getting through. Don't be surprised to see Gentlemate, Carmine Corp, and Vitality also making their way to top 4. Who's the 4th team to go with them? I don't know. You guys tell me. Let me know down in the comments. I mean, you figure even with the way that things played out, the Swiss bracket still looks mostly familiar, right? Which is why I think Carmine Corp will be all right despite having a tough matchup start, or even Gentlemates if they lose it, right? Yeah, I think for my 4th, give me Suh, just because they're going to be coming in riding that high off of beating Carmine Corp as well. So those will probably be my 4. I don't know if that'll be my 4 when we record for our pick'ems. So keep an eye out for that, obviously. But you guys let me know. I feel like that might not be a bad pick though. You know what I mean? But yeah, pick'ems tomorrow, probably Wednesday, maybe Thursday. Can't guarantee things. Just because I do have both collegiate and bubble scene casting tomorrow, but I should still be able to do pick'ems in the morning. All right. Just don't hold me 1000% to that. All right. Love you guys. But let's not sit around too much on Rocket League. We've been talking about it a bit. And I don't want this to go much past an hour, even if it does go past an hour. I'd kind of like to keep these episodes under an hour since we're doing 2 a week. I had mentioned VCT kicked off, man. VCT kickoff has been pretty solid. In Pacific, things have pretty well played out the way that I told y'all they would. In our pick'ems, we got the fraud yay out of here. Still don't know why people are expecting Bleed to be good with the pickup of yay, man. Especially because Bleed's giving Michael Jordan a bat, dog. You got to give Michael Jordan a bat basketball. Don't give him a glove and bat. Bro, Ye played, 5 maps and played 4 different agents. We played, Neon, Sky, Jet, and Viper. What are we doing? Like, I understand this is preseason and we haven't still potentially figured things out, but what are we actually doing? Can anyone tell me? Because I really don't know. But Bleed are the first team out of VCT kickoff. Kind of fitting that Ye's the first one gone. Not gonna lie. But yeah, so T1, first one to advance in Group A. Our decider match is between Zeta and Global Esports, just like I told you guys. I did not expect Talon to beat Team Secret But DRX still advances first in the top half. Talon and Team Seeker are going to be playing each other in the decider match. And I think Gen G looking even a little bit better than I thought they were. They are still yet to play the decider match against RRQ. All those matches go down tonight. So if you're watching this on YouTube, it's like literally in a couple of hours. Wait, what time does Group A start? It's not 5. It's at 1 o'clock, the first game. It's 1 a.m. on Wednesday morning is when the game starts. So if y'all are on those delinquent hours, y'all are watching this, feel free to tune into those if you want to tune into those live. But your boys Pick'ems in Pacific still looking pretty darn good, if you ask me. Detonation focused me. Not surprised to see them go out. And again, bleed. So still a little bit more to kind of go. Kind of going to be intrigued to see how those last 3 matchups go as far as in Pacific. And NA, though. Oh, and also EU is going on, or EMEA is going on right now. I actually got Carmine Corp versus Giants up on my other monitor right now. They're in the second map. We are recording this a little bit later than I normally tend to during the week, but tis what it is. But EMEA already off to a surprise. I'm not going to harp on it too much because it's literally the first match. And we'll probably talk about it more at the end of the week as far as those, and so those are matchups actively going on during the week. But Foot Esports following the Team Heretic 2-0 got swept. Kind of crazy. I'll tell you, that might mean Carmine Corp just might go in on the top spot. Unless Team Heretics are like for real, and they also beat whoever wins this game. But right now it is looking promising that Carmine Corp are going to be taking down Giant X, if you ask me. They've already won map number 1. But the rest of it hasn't gone down. If y'all are interested in my pick'ems, I'll make sure I leave a little, or I'm going to try and remember to leave a little link right up there in the video for you guys. All right. But we already did do our pick'ems for EMEA. NA though, or not NA. I always call it NA and VCT. I really got to stop that. It's really disrespectful. But for Americas, because we do have quite a bit of LATAM and South American talent in our Americas division. But yo, honestly, all of these games have been great. The 2 2-0s that we've had, or sorry, the 3 2-0s that we've had so far still were like really close and interactive games. I mean, the farthest one off would probably be NRG Furia, and that was still pretty well down to the wire. If you ask me, all of Group B's games have been like instant classics. Like Loud Sen was amazing to start off Group B. Leviathan versus 100 Thieves, another banger. And then the elimination match between Sentinels and 100 Thieves, also a banger. So Group B from Americas for kickoff has me super excited for the upcoming season for VCT Americas. I am going to be interested to see kind of how that middle of the pack works out, because as we talked about in our like tier list, I still do feel like the top 3-4 teams kind of separate themselves from the rest. But if this is any early indication, I do think that middle of the pack isn't too far behind those top teams, which does still kind of end up putting things back to that like any given Sunday type of mentality where those top teams still have to make sure they're on their P's and Q's every single week. So like regular season action in Americas is going to be really, really dope. There's still some more games later this week. I think they start on the weekend. Yeah, the 23rd, where we wind down the rest of Americas. That way we can move into the play-in stuff, which ends the weekend, because then playoffs is the following weekend. Playoffs, the first full weekend in March. And there will probably also be a pick'ems for that video. We'll probably end up doing, I would imagine. But yeah, I mean, I feel like as far as VCT is concerned, through the first part of kickoff, I don't know if there's really any surprises for me. Well, other than in EMEA, the foot game was a really big surprise. But, I mean, all of these games pretty well went as expected. Maybe not so much the 100 Thieves versus Sentinels. I think I might have picked that the other way. And actually, now that I'm thinking about the elimination game, I think over here I picked the other way. But they were both super close games. And I think the difference between these teams is rather minute. As well as I also think that both the teams that won the elimination game are still not going to Madrid. Not even not going to Madrid. I don't think they're making like the play-in bracket. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they're finishing second in their particular groups. I think whoever loses the winner's match in all three groups, whoever loses it is going to be the winner of the deciders match, personally. I do got to say, though, I guess maybe a positive surprise for me was Crew. And the Crew G2 Esports game, I don't know if it was so much G2 not coming prepared or G2 not playing as well as I expected, or Crew being better than I expected and coming a lot more prepared than I expected. And I really do think it's the latter. Because I thought G2 still looked pretty solid. You still had Val in different when Val needed to be different for G2 to clutch things out. But I do think that that's really motivating for Crew. That does even also mean going back to kind of referring to the tier list, that even our bottom tier teams in Americas, I don't think are going to struggle as much as they did in the past. Now, obviously, I think when you put a Crew against any of the top two teams in Group A versus B, they probably get handled decently. But that still means the majority of the games Crew should be in. And I think that's a good thing when we have all 11 teams in a spot where they can at least compete against the majority of the other 11 teams. You know what I mean? Personally. But yeah, more games going on this week. We got EMEA the next couple of days. China starts up in the late evenings as far as for us. That's not tonight, but tomorrow night going into Friday, right? Thursday night into Friday. Because that's Friday over in China. Or no, it's Wednesday into Thursday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then I think we got pretty well all the groups done at that point into the playoff bracket. We'll do pick'ems a little bit later this week. But I'm excited. Everything that I've seen so far, gameplay-wise, in VCT, has had me super excited. We've had some differences in metas. It's not like it's like, mirror matches as far as compositions all the time. I think there's plenty of young talent that's going to be continuing to make their names for themselves across the regions. VCT should be a lot of fun to watch this year. Luckily, we were only just scratching the surface. Unfortunately, though, for some teams, even though we're just scratching the surface, they now have to wait a month and a half, 2 months until they really kick up into games. I'm looking at teams like, Furia, 100 Thieves. We actually saw Courage JD make a post about it over on Twitter. Teams like Bleed, where you have a player like Ye, who we don't even know what freaking agent they are on. We don't get reps for a month and a half of real live action. You have scrims, but scrims are scrims. So let's always make sure we keep that 100. You know what I mean? I feel like for me, I don't know if it's, a communication that there are third-party tournaments that go on kind of alongside VCT, because I think fans want to watch more Valorant. I think it's been pretty obvious, even looking at the viewership across the regions, across the channels and watch parties. People want to watch Valorant right now. People want to watch esports. But the fact that you have some teams that are about to be going on a 6 to 7 week break is absolutely insane. And I don't think it's good for the viewership. I don't think it's good for the level of play that we will see once those teams are back, which just in turn still affects viewership more in a negative manner, right? So how does it change for teams like 100 Thieves, Furia? Well, one, you just get good. It's part of it. You just got to start freaking winning. Which is a lot easier said than done, right? But I do think we got to find some way to implement some sort of third-party system, third-party tournaments to help build the brand, because we know that esports tends to run on a loss. But I can't help but wonder if that's because there's not enough heat to truly ever stoke the fire. To really get it burning good. You know what I mean? I don't know. It ain't healthy. That's for sure. It ain't healthy for the industry and the esports economy for us to have this sort of layoff. So I don't know what needs to change. If you have any ideas, definitely feel free to let me know down in the comments or in those reviews. Hopefully they're 5-star reviews. Help your boy out. You know what I'm saying? But something's got to change. And I don't think anybody would complain about more esports. Nobody would complain about more Valorant. Like watching more competitive Valorant. You know what I mean? I don't know. Should be interesting. Also, let's talk. And I want to go full screen for this. Because I don't have stuff prepped as far as which, like, I've been reading the tweets. I've been watching different videos. I still want to say before I go too into depth on this. One, I'm not a law expert. I'm pretty stupid. I know esports. And I've been around the esports industry long enough, not as like somebody as a caster, but just like I've been a viewer of the esports industry for some time. Within the actual lawsuit, they talk about MLG, and like I remember the MLG days as a viewer and someone who's really invested in the scene, right? It feels to me that the lawsuit does not hold much water. I hate to say it. I think that if anything, it's going to be bad publicity, which continues to make it lose money. And maybe we see the CDL go under kind of the way that we saw OWL go under. And then we see it return to more of a grassroots scene, which I don't think is a bad thing. Because I don't really think the franchising system is the system that you need to go with for esports. Although I think it can work. I just don't think that the ecosystem is ready for it right now. I do think that when you look at some things in it, I think it still shows some very glaring, like, big issues with our industry. Especially when it comes to, I think we've always known as far as inclusivity and diversity. It's not really there within the industry. I saw the one post that talked about, how for Hex to get a spot, he needed to have another investor. One that more looked like a traditional sports, owner. And like, we all know what that means, dog. Like, as someone who very much realizes the privileges I have been given by being born, by spawning in and having more of my father's attributes than having the attributes that my mother and my sister carry that very much look very similar to Hex. That statement does not surprise me. And it shouldn't surprise y'all either in 2024, as much as we should be like moving past this stuff. Hopefully we can move to a point in the world where it's not as big of an issue. I would love to get to a point where that's not getting prevalent and being a headline. But more importantly than it not being a headline is I would like for it to just not be a problem. Right? But I think moving beyond that, because I do think it is a bigger problem than that. I think that became sort of a false flag to try and get it like more like publicity and attention, which I'm also not sure how I feel about that, to be honest. Because I think when you look at the rest of the documents that we have as far as the lawsuit, like they are documents that you signed, dog. Just because you have this passion to want to be involved in COD because you were around since the MLG days when it was a grassroots organization, it doesn't mean that somebody held a gun to your head and made you pay $27.5 million. They didn't hold a gun to your head and say, hey, you need to sign this contract where you owe us 50% of your sponsorship money. So as much as the terms are absolutely outlandish, like those are terms that you agreed to. And even if we talk about, well, we were told that either we accepted the terms now, don't review them with our lawyers, or we aren't involved. You were still given the option to either to accept the terms or not. Is it shady business practice? 1,000%. I think we can all agree on that, right? But when we talk about for a lawsuit that is very much just going to come down to the facts, no feelings, the facts will say you were presented a contract and you signed it. So then to go on and complain about said contract after the fact, I don't think it holds a lot of merit. I also think that it goes to say a lot that it is only Optic, it is only Hex and Scump that are like attached to the lawsuit. None of the other teams have jumped on board or filed anything similar. At least not of yet. Maybe they do. Who knows? And there was the whole response, which could very much have been a corporate response, that they had tried to get the settlement before actually going to court or whatever, asking for the, seeking the money. And I hope that's not the case. Because if that's the case, it shows that this is all senseless. And it's really is trying to use the machine that is social media and all the other and everything else to kind of hype and stoke the flame here, right? Because we do have to realize how big this would be for the esports industry if Hex and Scump were to win. I think it pretty well gets rid of a lot of some of the exclusive leagues. But they're already kind of starting to dissolve on their own. But I think more so when we look on the other side, if nothing changes, or if anything, it says, hey, you will not be punished for running your franchise leagues in similar fashion. You just might not be seen in the best of corporate eyes. This could be a step backwards within the industry. I would like to think that it helps send us forward for the future. Especially because we do know that when it comes to like the watch parties and stuff like that, or not even just the watch parties, it's a much bigger issue than that. But like the exclusivity of things being held underneath an IP, but at the same time, that's the whole problem. It's an IP, man. Like Activision owns COD. Nobody owns like traditional sports because they don't own the actual sport. And all of a sudden try and come along and change that, I don't think anything changes. I feel like this is all a more political media move versus anything that actually holds water. But again, full disclaimer, I am not a law expert. I'm not a legal expert. If we have anybody in the comments that happens to know for sure, please let me know. Jump in the Discord. That's down in the description if you're watching on YouTube. Shoot me a DM. Or if you just leave me a comment, we'll link up. Because I would like to have a better understanding on this all. But it feels like it's all for show, if we're just being real. Also, I had mentioned earlier I was watching the Giant X and Carmine Corp. It looks like it's actually going to be going to map 3 as it gets more towards the end of Sunset here. Just for a quick update. I'm trying to think about what else we got going on esports wise. Oh, Overwatch qualifiers for the new OWCS, the Overwatch Championship Series. That starts in March. So here in just a couple weeks, 2 weeks. Sign up your team if you haven't already. That looks like a rather interesting kind of format. Don't be surprised if we pop a couple of watch parties for that, to be honest. Kind of similar to how we watch some of our other esports over here. Which again, by the way, if you made it this far in the video, you like watch parties, you like breakdown videos like this, or if you haven't got to check out our other content over here, we do some other breakdowns, pick'ems, things like that. Feel free to check those out. Hit the subscribe button. We're chasing down that first 500. But I think we're going to watch some Overwatch over here, man. I've been enjoying getting back into casting it a little bit last semester for TEC, which speaking of that starts up next week. So maybe potentially seeing a little bit of a slowdown as far as content. maybe we end up going back to just one podcast a week. I'm not sure if I'm ready to commit to doing that just quite yet. I kind of like having the two. But I kind of got to figure out how things are going. I know I'm going to be doing a lot more stuff than just casting with TEC this upcoming season. Feel free to keep an eye out for some announcements as far as that go. Or we'll be talking about in the Discord and stuff too. So feel free to jump in there. With TEC popping up, I don't know just quite yet what the weekly schedule is going to be looking like. I do got some things in the work, hopefully to try and make an additional move or two. Trying to see if we can pick up some decent casting gigs coming up. Since your boy's back in RLCS in a minor region, maybe we can pick up some pro casting in another minor region. Maybe, possibly, maybe. So definitely keep an eye out for that, man. Also, if you do like the whole prayers and good looks things, or good well wishes things, send those my way. Would definitely love to see if we can add to the list a little bit. You know what I mean? But otherwise, I mean, your boys, I really have no complaints. Your boys been busy casting wise. TEC starting up, so that means potentially as early as next week, there's a chance that I could be casting Rocket League Monday through Sunday, casting every level from middle school, high school, college, bubble scene, and RLCS. That's kind of cool. Not bad for someone who was, exclusively casting DBD like 18 months ago. You know what I mean? But yeah, man. I think that's going to do it, bro. Look at that. Just under an hour. Your boy's starting to figure this stuff out. I feel like we're starting to crush out these podcasts. Let me know if y'all are over on YouTube. Leave some comments down below. Hit the like button. Those are the two things that help your boy out the most. If you made this far in the video, for real. Do you boy a favor. Even if you're just checking in down low and you're telling me that you like the orange frames and you want to, or you like the beard, or you think that I'm ugly. I don't care. Just leave a comment. Those comments, those likes, those are the two things that helps YouTube out the most as far as that algorithm. All right. If you want to make sure you're back for more content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Turn those notifications on as well. All right. Until we catch y'all. Oh, and if you're listening to this on those podcast platforms, make sure you're following. That way, you're subscribed. You've left a review helping your boy out. Tell somebody to tell somebody to tell somebody about it. You know what I'm saying? But until we catch y'all back over here for the next one, man. Don't forget, with everything crazy going on in the world today, be true, be you, be sincere. Game hard and love hard. All right, y'all? It's your boy Q, signing out.